Okay, we are now live.
Thank you. For some reason, I have a recipe on my screen.
What are you cooking?
Nothing. I never do. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting for July 15th, 2020. Petra, would you please call the roll? Petra?
I'm here, but I did not print out
All right.
So I've got them all on the screen. So
Okay, that's very good. The first motion is to approve the minutes from the meeting of May 13th, 2020. Is there, everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to
Anyone?
approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. The minutes are approved as submitted. Next, we'll go to agency updates, starting with Captain Martin and the Sheriff's Department.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's good to
Good
see you.
morning.
I know we're doing it through this this mode of communication. Sheriff's Office had a pretty much an uneventful weekend over the 4th of July, which is good. People were out and about, and everybody was doing what they needed to be doing and doing it safely as far as the COVID-19 issues that and concerns there. We do have the citizens. Some citizens are having speeding complaints on Blue Herring Pond Road and Falcon Road, which I had the deputies addressing that. Deputies are also working Governor's Drive, where the speed limit was changed to 25 miles an hour. We're still dealing with citizens operating on the old speed limit there, but I think slowly but surely everybody's getting a grasp of that speed limit. So there's no really major concerns with the Sheriff's Office as far as traffic, and everybody's doing what they're doing. As far as COVID, my deputies are doing their temperature, getting their temperature taking before they report to duty, and following the necessary protocol to make sure they're safe and everybody else is safe they come in contact with. We did have an incident with a young lady. I believe I sent you all a copy of that report. Had some mental issues, I think, and we got her the necessary help. She was visiting from St. Louis, Missouri, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah, and she was visiting from there, and they got her the help they needed. So and then that family finished out their vacation through that Saturday. So everything went well there. So that was about the extent of our issues. No problems. And Tony's keeping me abreast of anything that develops with Kika that we need to address. And he's really good about that. Appreciate that too. So we're staying on top of things.
What about Beach Walker? How's that going?
Oh yeah, Beach Walker's going really good, especially with since the mayor and you all decided to put that right turn lane in there. That's been helping out wonderful. I do assign a deputy, 2 deputies watching in the morning when it first starts off. Then I have one ease on out, and the other one stays there all day to monitor that situation to make sure we don't have any issues. But that's been doing really well, and kudos to the park staff, because they're really good about getting the information and into the system, and then getting the folks turned around and going to park and waiting for them to call. So without them doing their job, it'd be making it a lot more difficult for us. So that the lane and the park, it's working out really well this summer.
That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Captain Martin at this time?
This is Dwight Williams. Just briefly, I just wanted to thank the captain and his deputies for the job they're doing and slowing the traffic down around here. I know it's a thankless job, but I have noticed an improvement on governors and so is my neighbors, and it's appreciated. So thank you.
Well, thank you, sir.
That's good to hear. Okay, moving right along to St. John Fire. Chief Walls.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So I just wanted to update you a little bit on response on Kiowa. We are down to one squad vehicle, as one of the squads was in an accident a couple of weeks ago. No firefighters were injured, but the squad will be out of service for quite some time. So we are down to one squad. We had both of them deployed actually during the COVID response to aid in minimizing contamination of firefighters and units. And that had been working out pretty well. So there were no fireworks displays on Kiowa, no legal fireworks displays on Kiowa. So that also minimized our contact with the public. There was one fireworks display, I guess, on the Kiowa River private display shortly before July 4th. I believe that Chief Gilcrease sent you the response stats to Petra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
she has it. Thank you.
yeah, they're up there on the screen. And also I want to appreciate, I appreciate, right now Station 4 is under construction, obviously, as you know, and Tony has been working with us to get the concrete trucks in the early morning hours. So before it gets too hot and concrete starts to set up, it, so on and so forth. So we also put the little boat in service for smaller waterways. And we've begun training on that with our personnel. So other than that, I think that's about it. I think EMS can answer to some of the EMS calls that have been on Kiowa and response. Does anybody have any questions?
Chief, how is COVID-19 impacting your squad?
The squad has not been impacted so much as we are sending them in basically as an advanced team.
Okay.
Because there's only 2 people on the squad and we have 4 people on an engine or truck. We have had some of our personnel test positive. They've been quarantined and subsequently been brought back to work. Based on the exposures, we've had additional 40 plus people tested that had possible exposure to those that were tested positive. We had a new test positive come in on Monday, and we've contact traced all of the individuals that may have been in contact with that individual who tested positive. His daughter tested positive, and then he subsequently tested positive. So, it is impacting our overtime line item, as it probably is for other public safety personnel. But currently, if they just come in, if they just trickle in, obviously it would be easier for us than one fell swoop. And we had a lot of positives, which some of our partners have been experiencing. So I thank God for that. So, but other than that, we're hanging in there.
Great. And how's the construction
Wear your mask,
going?
wear your mask, wear your mask.
Thank you very much for saying that, because it is so important.
Yes.
How's the construction going?
Bill could probably better answer that because he's on up there. He's able to visit on a regular basis. But I have to tell you, it's refreshing comparatively to Station 6.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Next, for emergency services, I don't know who we have today. Todd.
Hey, sorry about that. Trying to get my phone off of mute here. Unfortunately, Dave was not able to join the meeting due to another commitment. But a couple of things real quick he wanted me to touch on. Overall, EMS call volume is up pretty significantly, as can be expected. The hospitals are definitely feeling the pinch in the low country area. We unfortunately have several folks out on quarantine right now. Unfortunately, we've had some folks test positive, but everyone seems to be doing okay. We are continuing to be very diligent about our PPE usage, wearing masks and goggles and gloves and whatnot, all the appropriate, and gowns, all the appropriate PPE. And we do not believe we've had any exposures on duty as a result of the PPE. The folks that have unfortunately become sick, we believe they've acquired it through the community and their interactions with other folks, but they've been quarantined, isolated. They're tested. Once that 10-day period has cleared, they're reevaluated and then returned to duty when it's deemed safe to do so by the county physician. But the biggest thing is call volume has increased, and unfortunately we've got folks on quarantine, so we're doing the best we can. That's kind of where we are right now, unfortunately.
Todd, with the call volume increasing, what types of calls are you getting?
They're oftentimes coded as the generic sick calls.
Okay.
We are transporting a significant number of COVID patients, and because it's out there in the community. And it doesn't care where you live or who you know. So it's out there in the community significantly, as you can see by looking at the news any night. So we're transporting them, and we've got our extensive decon processes with sprays and ozone decontamination that we're routing the trucks through when we have a patient of interest.
Now, with the calls increasing, are they on Kiowa?
I mean, it's the zip codes with the high number of cases. That's where we're seeing most of them. We did have 33 responses on Kiowa last month, I believe. It doesn't seem like there's an inordinately high amount of patients with patients of interest, shall we say, from the Kiowa area, but that does not mean that it is not there in the area.
Yes, I think Charleston County is the highest in the state.
Yes, unfortunately, we are. We have caught up and surpassed the Midlands and Upstate and Horry County. So it is spread widely through the community, and we strongly encourage everyone to wear the recommended and follow the recommended CDC guidelines with regard to social isolation and masks.
I agree.
We cannot overemphasize that enough.
I agree. The mask is really critical, as is the social distancing. Okay, Todd, thank you very much. Any questions for Todd? Okay, moving down. I don't know, is Rob here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Rob.
Good morning.
Beach Patrol.
Yeah.
Please.
So things are pretty busy and pretty hot on the beach. We've gotten everybody trained since the last time we spoke. So all of our preseason training is done. We're fully staffed, and things are going pretty well. We were having a lot of success with the social distancing stuff on the beach. We haven't had too many issues, but occasionally we find large groups, and by and large, they've been cooperative with just verbal warnings. So we haven't had to take too much subsequent action with the social distancing stuff on the beach. We did have an odd run-in that we haven't seen before. We had we finally caught a drone flying on the beach. Most of the time we get reports of drones from time to time, but it's really hard to actually find who's operating the drone and where it came from. We were able to catch one person operating a drone illegally on the beach this past week. 4th of July went off pretty well. As far as the fireworks at night, very minimal activity with fireworks, and so that was good. There's one problem that we've been seeing with some bikes. They're these hybrid bicycles that are like electric motor and pedal operated, and so I think what we're seeing is most of the time when they see us, they're in manual mode and they make sure that they're pedaling, and so we don't notice that they're zipping down the beach and other places. And so we're trying to get in front of that, but it's difficult because I think they know that they're not supposed to be operating in electric mode on the beach, and so they're careful when they see my folks out there. Other than that, we've been monitoring some of the same parking stuff with the sheriff's office as far as Beach Walker goes. Additionally, we're looking at the bridge, the Kiowa River Bridge, a lot more closely, and it seems like that's under control now that we've got the signage posted and the rope area blocked up.
Quite
yeah.
an improvement.
Yeah.
Rob,
yes, ma'am.
with the bicycles, we have an ordinance that says no mechanized vehicles on the beach.
That's correct. So if we can catch them in electric mode or in motorized mode, that's fine. Unfortunately, if they're pedaling the bike and it's under pedal power, then it's completely legal. But when they switch over into that other mode, they're not allowed to be doing that. So we're keeping an eye out. I caught one several months ago, but we've had reports of them more and more frequently now.
Do you have any idea how many?
I don't. I have no idea.
All right, but the social distancing is working?
It seems to be. Everybody I think gets it and understands it. There hasn't been hardly any pushback at all on the beach when we do encounter large groups. And so that's been nice to see that people are cooperating. And a lot of times it's family groups that might be staying in different places on the island, and they all get together and meet up on the beach and just don't realize it. And so all it takes is just a reminder from us, and they're very cooperative. So we've been pleased with the response from the public on that.
That's great. Thank you. Any questions for Rob? I guess you've seen a big increase in the number of people in the past couple of weeks.
Lots and lots of people on the beach these days. So.
Okay. And we'll move right along here to Tony. You have a Kika report.
Kelly, are you here? Okay, I guess that's me. So I guess the new things for us is, one, and this is probably the most important for this group, we made, through the board, we made some decisions to adjust that speed limit that was there past Governor's and Gate. We acknowledged that we had an opportunity to have advertised that more, notify the community more, and also put out some sort of indicator so they would realize that it is changed by drawing the attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because we're getting ready to go through a pretty massive change, potentially. With some complaints that we've gotten about other speed areas, with some complaints that we've gotten about the speed changing multiple times and being confused, I've actually been asked to basically map out all of Governor's and all of the Parkway, and
Right.
even on to the Duneside area and places like that, to be able to make a recommendation for what I believe should happen to reduce some of the changes and to create opportunities that will actually make it safer. That said, I'm finalizing that probably today at 1:30 when I'm meeting with the person who's mapping it for me. But what I'm looking at tentatively is going to be some reductions on the Parkway and additional reductions on Governor's, where 35 miles per hour will basically go away. And we'll end up with either 15 in some areas, like where the roundabout is, where the hotel's going to be and all that. The resort, which is already in place by the time they built it. It is a 25 or 30 as you're actually traveling both of those major roadways. The other thing is just some changes that may occur in where things are placed. For example, the reduced speed limit ahead and the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit at the V-gate will be moved closer to the V-gate instead of so far away, so that it has a little bit more attention grabbing when it's told to reduce to 15 miles an hour. The other thing from a roadway safety perspective that's going on is the exit and entry to Kika. I've had numerous complaints, and I've forwarded some of them, and Stephanie has some of this stuff from our engineer, Will Connor, where we're looking at changing our entry when it gets to the Kika side, which would be across from Beachwalker as soon as you cross it, to where you're actually, there's either some kind of curbing or some kind of strip, but we've got to work with the ARB that will not allow you to change lanes once you get over there. It'll basically be, you'll have to drive over a curb or a rounded curve or something, depending on what the ARB approves. And I had a tentative, unofficial conversation with the head of the ARB about all of this. And that should take care of that. And the only thing we would be asking, I'm just going to bring it up in this meeting, is for the town to take a look at, can we do something, at least maybe a double line as you get closer to the intersection coming inbound, so that people don't change lanes once they get into their specific lane and aren't trying to change in the intersection.
Okay.
That will also make it easier for Captain Martin and his enforcement, because it'll be much clearer. The outbound lane, the only thing that we're looking at, everyone's racing to try to get in front of, even though it says
Right.
left turn only. On the Kika side, we're going to potentially paint the word only on the ground where the arrows are.
Mhm.
We're going to move the sign that says only away from where it is at my parking lot, closer to Beach Walker. And then again, trying to see what the town thinks might work on the other side, on the town side. So if people keep going straight, there's another reminder there that they're not supposed to change lanes. And then obviously giving the sheriff's office much more clear enforcement opportunity if it's very clearly marked and there's no excuse for them to do that. You're not going to stop everyone, but if we stop a percentage, it's going to be safer. Any questions about any of that?
I think identifying that lane and saying only, left turn only, is something that people have been asking about, and I can see where that would help a lot.
Well, the ARB, at least unofficially, has agreed. And since we're trying to put it on the pavement and not put up additional signage,
Right.
they're okay with that. And lastly, just before I forget, they reduced all the speed limit for those of y'all who haven't been there at the roundabout to 15 miles an hour where the new conference center went. And it goes all the way to that as you head towards the Sandcastle, and it goes all the way to that as you get to the dead end where the golf course is in the other direction. When you make a left on Dune side, it changes suddenly to 25 miles an hour. Well, that's obviously whoever changed those areas, which I think, I'm not sure if that was Choate or how that happened, or if it was part of the overall plan. But once that got changed, that was an oversight, and we're going to pick that up in our Dune side renovation and recommend that area be reduced to 15 as well, so that as soon as you get to that roundabout area, everything is 15.
So just let me ask you, on the Keo Island Parkway and Governors, are the number of speed limits going to be reduced?
The number of speed limit changes are going to be reduced, yes.
Okay, that was my question. That's good. Thank you. I'd be happy to talk to you about the other issues that involve the town.
Okay.
So
Stephanie's already working with the engineer with that, and I think Brian's involved in it as well. But I think that just getting us involved in it, because I've been actually requested by 2 members to mention it at the Public Safety Committee meeting.
2 Kika members, board members? Yes. Okay.
No, just 2 Kika members.
Hi, Stephanie.
Not board members.
All right, great. Does anybody have any questions for Tony?
No questions here, but again, they sound like well thought out and needed proposals. So best of luck in moving forward with this.
Thank you. Thank you, Dwight.
Good, thanks.
All right, moving down on the agenda, we don't have any old business to talk about today. Under new business, I did want to talk about bicycle safety. And as soon as I see my screen here, I'll be able to get back to it. Okay. The reason I put that on the agenda is because of a request that we have received to put some on the pavement stripes and warnings about bikes stopping. And this started out with Cacique, and there are I think, 3 other entries onto the parkway from that side that have no stripes or no markings at all for bicycles to stop. So what I was recommending is that we put the stop stripes, which is 1 stripe across. Tony or Captain Martin, just correct me if I'm incorrect. And then also have stop printed on the pavement. And hopefully that will do something to make people more aware that if they're coming up to a driveway where cars are coming out and it's somewhat unsafe. Have you had any experience with that, Tony or Captain Martin? Any problems in that area?
Cap, if you want to go first, I'll go after.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Tony?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The only thing that I see, the bicyclers aren't paying attention and they're not stopping at the stop
Right.
sign at the intersection. You know, it's incumbent upon everybody to be aware, the bicyclists and the motorists. I stress to my deputies all the time, yes, we have the right of way, but as motorists, we also have to take responsibility too and realize there's a crosswalk there. And if you see pedestrians or bicyclists, slow down or you be prepared to stop and let them cross. But majority of the instances I've seen is the bicyclists are not paying attention, especially
Right.
at Beachwalker and the Parkway. Those folks go right through that thing like there's nothing there, and we got that's a 3-way traffic intersection, and they're not paying attention. And kudos to the motorists; they're the ones paying attention. The bicyclists aren't. Then you got these kids out there, 5 years old or younger, and
Right.
parents all the way behind, you know, either way out in front of them or way in the back, not paying attention to the youngsters. And, you know, kids are going to be kids and they're going to go right through the intersection. A 5-year-old can't see a stop sign. I don't know what's that about. And you just follow the mom or dad right through it. So that's the issue and concern that I have for it. Making the bicyclists more aware of it and also stressing to our motorists, yes, you do have the right of way, but it's also your responsibility to look out for these folks that are walking or on bicycles going through these intersections. Do you agree, Tony?
I do. I absolutely agree. I do know that our engineers with the town are looking at that intersection for bike and pedestrian traffic as well. Stephanie, I believe that you got some stuff from Will on that. That's all part of this whole proposal that they're looking at and trying to figure out how to make it safer. I do believe, and I'm going to have to take my Kika hat off and do what you've appointed me to do on the committee. From a public safety perspective, the more you could put out there to notify people, the better. ARB obviously is not that same mindset, which I understand because of aesthetics. But putting something on the ground, such as a stop bar, and the word stop as you're approaching the stop bar, I mean, even if it saves one person from getting in an accident, every one of those was worth it. It would just be a question of where is it feasible to do that. You know, and I would absolutely say that at every single intersection where you're approaching anywhere where, you know, major traffic goes through or it's a roadway, you know, but something to definitely consider.
Probably the two ones, the ones we want to probably put them at where there's issues all the time would be right there at the V gate, at Governor's and the Parkway, and of course at Beachwalker. Then you also have these blind spots on these like Bufflehead, you know, people plowing right through Bufflehead there at the intersection at the Parkway, or it's an Ocean Course, I guess, or it could be Governor's. Those areas too are problems as well. But the 2 main ones would be, I would say would be Beachwalker and the Parkway and Governor's and the Parkway. Those people just blow through those all the time with the bicycles.
Agree.
I think they blow through every single stop sign with bicycles, from what I can see. There's absolutely, you really have to be careful as a driver to slow down at the bike paths. But I'm going to go ahead and see how we can get this done for certain exits to Keel Island Parkway, and Tony and Captain Martin, we can talk about that separately. The next thing I had on the agenda was Motorized Bikes.
I personally don't have any experience with the motorized bike thing. You know, with the big thing with law enforcement was the golf course. Now they got these motorized bicycles. Some of those can go up to 50 miles an hour. I understand that's pretty fast. You know, but I really don't have any experience on that. I'll have to do some research and see what the laws are pertaining to that.
Tony, are you aware that Kika brought this up yesterday at their meeting? I don't know. I didn't know if you were there or not.
I wasn't there, but I was briefed. I've been heavily involved in the proposal to allow them on the island, the three different types, to allow the type 1, which max speed is 20 miles an hour if you can pedal that fast and get the assistance, which some people can't, but a lot of people can. And so that you'll know where I stood with the board, and my recommendation was to not allow them, because the leisure trail is a multi-use trail, and it actually has too many things that can pop out in front of you very quickly, and our accident rate and liability will increase significantly. There was discussion about potentially allowing it if people, like we do golf cart exceptions and LSV exceptions, if they have medical reasons for a period of time, or even lengthy medical reasons, which the whole point, I believe, is to try to get the older people in the community to be able to enjoy the leisure trails at a slow pace, like a bike might go, enjoying it, and not to have it at the max speed of 20. So to use it to medically assist someone. The challenge is, how do you enforce that? And as I've told the board and Jimmy, I have no ability to enforce that at all. I don't have anybody patrolling the leisure trails. I don't have the staff to patrol the leisure trails. And certainly the captain isn't going to do that because it's way out of his forte. And there's not even a law that does that. In yesterday's meeting, where we were advised that the board was going to be asking the community, you know, obviously I have concerns, and I know the engineers have concerns. So there's a lot of conversation going on about how to manage this. And from what I understand, a big part of that meeting was also, how do you even enforce it, which is a tough challenge.
Well, they really didn't address enforcing it. I listened to the meeting when I heard about the bikes, and they're looking at class 1 for residents that apply for a license. I think what they're recommending is licenses for people who have those types of bikes. And it's primarily aimed at people who don't have the ability or stamina to ride a bike very far. So it's my understanding, Tony, that you're going to go out to the public for input on this.
That's correct, and absolutely what you're saying, that if the recommendation is that if it is desired, then they would be licensed, so we would know who has them and where. There could potentially be some type of age or medical related requirement. I've told them to be careful and consult the attorney when they look at age, because it could end up in some sort of a lawsuit.
Right.
But I'm not an attorney, I'm just a cop. Well, retired cop, sorry, Don. But just got to be careful in that area. And then they would be having us try to regulate that, which is where I've told them that I don't have the staff to do that. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. The challenge is going to be is when they won't have any rentals. So if anybody's has that question, no one's recommending any rentals. They're basically saying an owner, a member, has to be the one that actually has, in my understanding, would also have to be the one operating. So you can't have somebody come in and rent your property and give them your bike. But that will be the types of things, having seen what happened with short-term rentals, that'll be the types of things that'll happen. We'll be in a rental unit and we'll find people out there using them. But it sounds like already Beach Patrol is experiencing a bunch of them out there already, which the only way they can get there is somewhere out on Kika. So there comes the other challenges. How do you even identify them unless you're sitting somewhere looking at them all crossing the road and trying to figure out which ones are pedal assist and which ones are not, which we don't have the time to do with the staffing, and sheriff's office is not going to get involved in. kudos to Beach Patrol to even finding them because it is very challenging.
Well, I can't see them driving around the circle at Freshfields on a motorized bike, especially if it is people that are using them because they have some kind of limitations. So for the town, it's going to be an issue of what we should do between the security gates and Freshfields. Whether or not we allow them, I guess we're just going to wait and see what the feedback is. Does
Yeah, I was
anybody?
going to suggest that maybe we take a look at waiting on that feedback, because that'll give us not only Kika, but the town a pretty good opportunity to look at what the desirability is and what the concerns are.
Right. Yes, we can do that. Any other comments on motorized bikes?
Marianne, this is Dwight.
Yes, right.
All I'll just say is, with concerns toward the beach where we do have jurisdictions, is they can become a problem. I've had some experiences utilizing Rambo bikes, for instance, and these hybrid bikes, it won't be long before people are jumping dunes and everything else. I mean, the capability of these bikes is incredible for mountain climbing, everything. So I think they got to be very, very careful of, opening a can of worms. It becomes very difficult to patrol, to stop people without, creating a lot of damage to our dunes and other areas along the beach.
It's very important, Dwight. I appreciate your comments. In the past, when I've been asked about them, I just pointed to the ordinance and said we don't allow any motorized vehicles on the beach, and that worked. But now we're going to be into a bigger issue, especially if it is decided to allow them in certain cases.
No, and I agree. And with the earlier conversation about differentiating whether they're actually pedaling or using the power, like I said, that makes it almost impossible to enforce. That's a really fine line there.
Okay, thank you. The last item I wanted to bring up was to get your feeling about having a bicycle patrol. And I asked Chief Martin if he has had any experience with this, and I would ask Tony also if you've had any experience with having more community policing, where some of our officers would be on bicycles, not necessarily all the time, and maybe just during the high season. But have you had any experience with that?
Me personally, the sheriff's office never had a bicycle patrol. I think it is a good idea. A couple of weeks ago, the mayor brought that up casually to me, expressed interest in maybe doing something like that down the road with the town providing the equipment and the training. Then I got your email yesterday, ma'am, and I did a little bit of research. I talked to our logistics sergeant, and he told me that the bikes would probably average anywhere from police bikes from $1,300 to $1,500, and the helmet anywhere from $100 to $200. And of course, the deputies would need to be trained. Obviously, there's a reason for the training. You put a guy on a bike and have him go down, and he falls off the bike. Well, and then he gets hurt. Well, I never had any training for this. Then, you open up that can of worms. So we'd have to have the training. The only agency that does any training that I've learned so far is Aviation Authority. The airport police out there in Charleston, they have a bike patrol, and they do training. I think it's either a week or 2 week long class. I don't know if there's a cost associated with it. Me personally, I think it is a very good idea. I've had a couple of deputies, permanent Kiowa deputies, expressed interest to do this. They're already in shorts now. I got to get them the appropriate footwear, of course, like that. But because we only have 2 permanent deputies on day shift per se, I would like to leave just one deputy in a car and have the other deputy, if we went to this down the road, on the bike, but have him, of course, you trailer the bike or, put the bike on the back of his SUV, drive it, park his SUV, take it off, and maybe have a 3 mile radius to patrol the bike paths and everything, so he can get back to his cruiser fast in case there's a need for him to respond in his vehicle somewhere on the island. I wouldn't want them out there patrolling all over the island on bike per se, because I think that
Right.
we got to take it in perspective. We only got 2 deputies available out there, other than, yeah, 2 deputies available, other than weekends in the summer months when we have 4. So there may be a situation on the island where he needs to respond, and it could be all the way in the back of the island, and he's in the front of the island, patrolling on a bike, and his car's anywhere but not near, and then you only have 1 guy responding. So that's how I would limit it. Of course, they wouldn't do it all the time, but I think it would add to public relations, people seeing a deputy on a bicycle out there on the bike paths, keep people from doing things that they shouldn't be doing, knowing that there may be a cop rolling along here on a bike, or it gives people a sense of security and safety too. They see deputies, and deputies out there stopping at the intersections, maybe, and setting the example, reminding people they got to stop at the intersections on the bicycles. So I think it's a positive thing that the town could look at down the road for something to do.
Tony, how do you feel?
I've had experience as a younger cop in Virginia Beach. I was actually in command of the bike patrol and certified to do bikes on the resort area of Virginia Beach before I came to Charleston and got involved in command level things. But we also had bike patrol in Charleston City, but it was exactly done what the captain is expressing, where the cruisers had the ability to put it on the back of their cruiser. They would go to a designated area. They would ride around some. Very, very, very positive for high visibility, very positive for community relation, very positive for younger generations interaction. It's just a great thing. It would be wonderful out here to the extent that it can be supported. By the way, training is an absolute necessity. Never put anyone out here in a police function not trained in how to ride those bikes, or we're going to have deputies getting hurt. And I say that as a voice of experience before we began training people in Virginia Beach and what happened afterwards. And not sure if they still have it, but do they still do the training at the city as well, Don?
Okay.
Yes.
My guys look into that.
You might want to just check, because they may do it there as well to give you more opportunities to get it done. But I absolutely think it would be a great idea. Great idea to have some exposure on the leisure trails. And if I can get to a point where I have enough people, or I've got enough resources on duty, I would love to put even one of my people out, maybe even with them riding around. But that's a future conversation.
Okay, great. It sounds like there are a lot of positives that could result from this. And why don't I take it up with Stephanie and see where we can go from here? I personally feel it is an excellent way for our officers to interact with the community. And I know I've seen it before in the police department where I was the commissioner. I've seen how it helps with the reactions at the parks, with the neighborhoods, just getting to know different people and having your finger on the pulse. So I don't know how long it would take to do something like that. I know our budget is very limited right now, but let me take this up with Stephanie and we'll go from there. Any other comments on bike patrol?
Yes, I'm very much in favor of the Sheriff's Department doing the bike control. I think biking in general on the island, especially in the last 3 to 4 months, has become very unsafe. We've had a serious accident, one that I know of, and I've seen many near misses, and it's come to the point where my wife and I don't even ride the bike trails anymore, because there's just too many bicyclists that aren't paying attention. They don't stop at the intersections. They don't have any common courtesy. They don't notify when they're passing on their left. They don't say anything. They just fly by. And my wife and I have almost been hit several times. So, and until something's going to be done, we're not safe riding on the trails. I think part of the problem too has been that there's an inordinate amount of people on the island, And I do know for a fact that at one point, a couple of weeks ago anyway, all of the resort's 3,000 bicycles were rented. And so that tells me that the other bicycle rentals on the island have also been increased quite a bit. So, you know, at some point there's probably 5,000 rental bikes out there, literally. And then they're just too many not paying attention and being safe riding. And, you know, we've even commented to folks that have breezed by us unexpectedly and asked them to please announce themselves. And we get all kinds of reactions that are not pretty. So anyway. Yeah. So
well, I don't know if I told anybody here, but I use the bike path every day, not necessarily to bike, but to walk. And a couple of weeks ago, I was on there and I walked like 1.5 miles to 2 miles, and I encountered 112 people in that period of time. Sure. That is a lot of people on the bike paths. And they weren't just bicycles, you know, they were runners, walkers like myself. It's very heavily used, and I think if we could get a bicycle patrol, it would definitely help us.
Yep.
Okay. So no other comments on that. I'd like to go to Yvonne and ask her if she would like to report on anything with the resort.
Yes. So can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yvonne.
Okay, good. I thought I unmuted. So Monday we had an incident with an alligator. We had a golfer that was out on the 18th hole, which is directly behind the clubhouse. His ball ended up close. Yeah, no, on Turtle. It was the ball ended up in the rough, very close to the pond's edge. And right. he stepped over, had 1 foot close to the lagoon, and then 1 foot up high where the grass is more smooth. And he was looking down at the ball to take a shot, and the alligator came up out of the water and grabbed his club.
Oh my God.
Interestingly enough, you know, people were talking to me about, you know, maybe we should have noticed some aggressive behavior in this alligator. And I think it might be time to maybe just get a review out there of what's not normal so we can report it. With this particular gator, what made it interesting is that he was blind. So it wasn't like he intentionally saw a human being. He was just fishing or hunting with, you know, his alternative senses. But you know, maybe there's some things that we can get out there to staff so that they can recognize it and know to report it sooner. So I just wanted to share that incident with everyone because it could have been very bad.
I was unaware of that, and I live on the 18th fairway, and I watch every day and see golfers go right down into the weeds, and it's just an accident looking for a place to happen.
Just to echo what Yvonne said, that night we had the incident with the young woman that had some mental issues. The folks who were like staying at 5 Bufflehead, the father had mentioned to me that 3 gators that they've noticed back in that lagoon area that when they go out there to start up the grill, or somebody comes out there, these gators were swimming towards them. I said, anytime you see something like that, that's not normal, and you need to contact the town to get our wildlife folks involved, because gators shouldn't be coming towards humans. Most of them are afraid, you know, unless they're being fed. So those are considered nuisance gators. They have to, you know, be taken care of. So we need to let the visitors know on the island, as well as the residents, that when they have these gators and they come towards them, or they come up on the ground when they're, you know, that they need to make wildlife aware of this so we can address these. Unfortunately, you have people out there that are feeding these animals, and then the only recourse we have to do when they become unafraid of us is to destroy them, and that's just awful. But it's, you know, you don't want a human being or a pet getting, you know, attacked as well. So I would stress that we get the word out to folks to not to feed the gators, and if they see aggressive gators or gators coming up there like that, that we got to get wildlife involved. They need to do something with those animals.
Yvonne, thank you. Yvonne, to whom was this reported?
It was reported to my security office, and then we involved the town in Kika.
Okay, so
And-
Jim,
Yes, the animal was euthanized.
okay, good, okay. One of the things that we had, when we did our alligator study, we had recommended that the starters at the golf courses just make a comment to the golfers to stay away from the edges of the ponds, you know, to remind them that the alligators are there. So maybe we have to reinforce that. We've tried to do everything we can to make visitors aware of the behavior they should be following, so.
Yes, ma'am. I'm working on getting a verbiage blast out to all of our employees that have email, and then doing some spot visits. But I just felt like everybody should be aware of that incident.
Absolutely. That's very important. Thank you. Okay, does anyone have anything else? Bill, do you have anything else you'd like to report?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. Rob, you've already reported.
Yeah, just one thing to add. We did Monday night catch 2 people feeding the gators, and we did write citations for both of those.
Oh,
so
good.
So we are, I think when we do find them, we do take it seriously. It's very, very tough, even after a complaint, to catch them actually feeding the gators. So very happy that we were able to take care of that.
And where were they feeding them?
I believe it was at the corner of Flyway and Governors, or if I remember correctly, it was I can't remember. It might have been Flyway
Okay.
and I can't remember.
I can find out.
I'll look it up and let you know. Oops, here it is. Flyway and Governors.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad you gave them citations. That's what we have to do.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand that after that, in cases of feeding, as was mentioned, the alligators have to be euthanized. Okay. Stephanie Tillerson, are you on this call?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually doing double duty because I'm on the county, our Wednesday COVID call. So I had to report in. So I'm listening to them and listening to you all, but I'm on the call.
I see that great picture of you, and you haven't changed
Yes, I'm taking notes, but yes, I'm also on the county noon COVID call as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Hearing none, we'll go ahead and end the call. We'll speak again next Wednesday. Thank you all. Have a great week.
And we'll be on that call too. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did it.
Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.
Thanks.